بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها بعدد ما أحاط به علم. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
When it comes to speaking about Imam Reza, it really is hard to figure out what aspect to speak. There's so much to say about the Imam and all the blessed Imams, alhamdulillah. I thought of maybe touching upon a few of the names of the Imam. Then I thought, what about the lessons? There's many stories. So I'm just going to try to hop, I don't know how much time do I have, Brother Farhan?
As 20, 15, 20, okay. 25, 30,
okay.
Whatever.
I don't want to bore everyone, but the Imam is very, very special. And I know some of you guys have been to Mashhad. Some of you guys are going to be going next month, inshallah. So please pay close attention. And it really is important to prepare yourself mentally, because a lot of times, I went, alhamdulillah, I was blessed, but it was right after Shahr Ramadan, and you month of Ramadan is already helping you to prepare, obviously, spiritually, but sometimes you just want some time to focus on that Imam. There was not that much, I didn't have that luxury of time to kind of just focus on that personality. What is it about this personality that is unique? And in even some of the stories that we know of, but we don't necessarily, it's always good to refresh. One thing about our deen is, some people might look at it as that we do a lot of things that are repetitive. We're praying same movements again and again and again. We repeat same hadith. We're reciting same verses every. It's not about repetition. It's about refreshing ourselves. It's about awakening our souls. And we, as human beings, we do need that. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recommends, and one of the best of acts is to do the ziyarah, to go to these holy sites. And it's not one of those things that you tick off and you say, you know what, I went to Bermuda, or I went to Bahamas, check, what's on my next list? No. When it comes to the ziyarahs of our Ayyam-e, and including Imam Reza alayhi salam, it's not a checklist. It's again and again and again until you breathe your last, inshallah. You pray that Allah prolongs your life, because this is what life is about. Everything in between is just what we call noise, right? You're going to go to school, you're going to go to work, you come back, you take care of your responsibilities. We all have responsibilities. Your elders, your children, we do that. But it should all become an orbit around the Imams. And the Imams teach us a lot. Let's start with the name of the Imam. There are many names of the Imam, but let's start with the obvious. Imam al-Reza. What does Reza mean? There's multiple meanings. And this might be a refresher for some of you, but it's even for myself. Reza being one meaning is being content, being radi, being pleased with the status quo. So what does that mean? Is that you shouldn't be one of those that, and we're all guilty of it, always looking to what don't I have? Even when you have everything in front of you, you have a house. Some of us might have two houses. Luxury, right? We're living that luxury house, luxury living, compared to many people that are abroad that don't have the basics. So let's take a moment every day, if possible, if not every day, once a week, to just reflect and say, what is it that Allah has blessed us with, right? And why is it that we continuously always compare with others and say, you know what, but she has this, I don't. He has this. Oh, I have this cell phone, but this other person has a more upgraded cell phone. It's not enough. I need to get it. You're lucky that you even have a cell phone. Alhamdulillah, you can, as long as you can communicate with others. Alhamdulillah, God forbid you get stuck in an emergency. Do you have a way to communicate and call out for help? Other people might not have that luxury to call out for help. So think about it from a different perspective, rather than just always, huffing and puffing because you don't have the most, latest advanced technology standards, and because we are living in a world, unfortunately, this is the business world that we live in, is that every other day there's going to be a new version of something, a new version of a car. They have, 20 years ago they didn't have something called hybrid model of a car, right? Now they have these new features that, Oh, and I've heard now with AI, 20 years later or 30 years later, they're going to be having robot cars. You just hop in and they take you. You don't even need to drive, right? These are the things that are now they're planning on it years in advance. So we need to make a decision to ourselves. Are we going to continue looking at what's out there and being discontent and not being thankful for what we have? If we're going to do that, we're going to be very, very tired mentally and emotionally. We're going to be miserable. We're never going to be happy. So Imam, just with his name, reminds us that virtue of content, being content, alhamdulillah, and being thankful for many things that we have. Just the fact that you woke up today and you didn't have a musibah, nothing, you actually made your way here without any musibah. You came with 2 legs, with 2 arms, with eyes. One of our cousins, 3 weeks ago, unfortunately, she lost 1 eye. That's it. The complications of the stroke, the irreversible damage. And now she's only walking with 1 eye. Isn't that a stark reminder that we need to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our health, the presence of our parents in our lives. That's not something to be taken for granted. And if you're living with your parents, even more so. You thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala night and day, because granted there's going to be a day when you're going to be crying tears for the moments that you didn't spend with your mom. Tomorrow, alhamdulillah, is another opportunity for us to, for example, to show our gratitude to our moms who have sacrificed our lives. And Dad and I were chatting about it this morning. And one of the things that, alhamdulillah, when we were young, he always implemented our love for our mother, is that, he would get us gifts to give to our mom. That was, at that time, that was unheard of. Like, kids didn't usually give gifts to their parents. He implemented that. That was much, years ago, right? So these small token, and don't wait for someone to remind you about your mom. You should plan in advance, like you do planning for your game, your soccer game, or your football game, or your whatever it is. Plan in advance. Oh, Father's Day is coming. What am I gonna do? What's on the plan that day? And work your schedule around that day, right? Versus the opposite. That, oh, I'm gonna be there, so let me see. So these are some small things that Let's live the moments of our lives. Let's be mindful. Let's take each advantage of our life, and to try to be thankful for. And being thankful is not just saying thank you, Allah. Of course, that's a big step, but it's by actually realizing it and showing those sentiments, those nice sentiments to your parents, and so on and so forth. So that's just a few things about his name, Imam Reza alayhi salam, showing content. Another meaning of Reza is that Imam Reza was named with that name is because he was the only Imam who, technically speaking, all the Imams, unfortunately, they have haters, right? They have haters, they have enemies. Imam Reza alayhi salam was from one of the few Imams that actually even his haters liked him. Even the brothers from the other side of the fence, they loved him, right? He had that special karama. That's why everyone was good with him, right? So alhamdulillah, this is another thing, you guys can keep in mind. When you visit Imam Reza, you think, oh, this is the Imam that everyone, had that positive sentiments. And of course, when we go to, I'm going to skip, I know that Muhammad Ali did speak briefly about dhamin and what it means, or you would say dhamin or dhamin in Arabic.
Please repeat.
I can repeat? Okay.
Yeah,
So we are now living in very challenging times, right? The politics. People are they're freaking out. They're scared, right? They were scared 5 years ago. Imagine now, right? You go to a certain place to visit to pay your respects to your Imam. The first thing you're asked is, oh, but is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe? I remember being asked that question. That's 5 years ago. When things are okay. I mean, it wasn't even now with the new administration where immigration and all of these the hot topics that are out there, and it is understood to have these concerns. But what I would like to remind everyone, right, that again this is where we put things into perspective, right? When you go to the Imam, remember that there was a time when people would go to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, the true lovers of Imam al-Hussein, and they would, every time they would go, they would have a limb get cut off. Their right arm would go. Did that stop them? No. They take my other limb. They would go again. The next one would come off. Then their one foot, the next foot. That is the true love of your Imam. That there's no room for fear. I'm going to say it just flat out. There's no room for fear. It's that fear that allowed for our 12 Imams, or for our 11 Imams, may Allah prolong the Imam of our time, the life of the Imam of our time, our 11 Imams to die, and to be, not just to die, to be killed. It's because us, as a Shia, we failed to protect our Imams. That is the truth. We failed. It's because of this type of fear that if we all came in unity and we were strong and we didn't have that fear, that even to go to the Imam and just pay respects. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be careful. Just to be clear, we have to take the measures. We have to be smart. We have to do the due diligence. Do the due diligence and then have tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and go. Go without any regrets. Worst case scenario, what happens? What is the worst case scenario? Can anyone tell me what is the worst case scenario?
You die.
You die. Then what do we become? What is your status now? Shaheed. Now tell me, anyone in this room, is it not your wish to become a shaheed? And if you become a shaheed on the way of visiting your Imam, that's it. You killed it in the sense that you got what you could get. The best of the status in this world is that you're going to your Imam, even if there's a little bit of a risk, and you're going to be fine. The reality is alhamdulillah, you are going to be fine. A few questioning here and there, but at the end of the day, alhamdulillah, you will be fine. But the Imam is going to see that even in these circumstances, what was your how did you deal with that? Were you one of those who said, oh no, not now, wait till things are safer? So that means you're more concerned about yourself than the Imam. And if that's your mindset, then, on occasions like this, like the birthday of Imam Reza, it's a nice opportunity to reflect and to say, you know what, how can I get to that level where I can become more stronger and confident, and such that I'm not thinking about myself more than I'm thinking about the Imam. So now coming back to Al-Dhamin, the name Al-Dhamin. For those who are really stressed, we'll give you something so you don't get stressed. Even the Imam saying, you're stressed to come to me, I'm going to give it to you. Al-Dhamin. Narrations have it that Imam al-Reza guarantees you that you're going to be safe. If, like I said, if you are so stressed, and we all know the traditions, alhamdulillah, Imam al-Reza, there's du'as that are recommended that when you go to Safar, when you go to any travel, not just to visit him, any travel, you can say certain dua, recite his name. He is known that with this karama that you will go and you will come back safe. So that's another thing that you can remind yourself, that in these very challenging environments where travel to any place, especially us being as Muslims and being from the Middle East and all of that, we can use that opportunity when we travel to get closer to our Imam al-Rida alayhi salam specifically. We can recite those specific du'as, and if you guys want those du'as, you can reach out to me. We have alhamdulillah du'as that are very, very precious that we can use to get closer to him, inshallah. I'm going to go on to other aspects. I want to talk about lessons of the Imam, because at the end of the day, like I said, when we come to remember the Imam, we're not just coming here to just say Eid Mubarak, Miladi Mubarak. No, we want to come out of it with some tangible lessons, right? And there's so many lessons I definitely would not be able to do justice, but for one, there's a hadith by Imam Reza alayhi salam who was once asked about the good people. He was asked, what are the good people? How do you define good people? And this, of course, when the Imam is talking about goodness, this is not only limited to the Muslims or limited to the Christians or the Jews. Goodness is goodness, and it transcends any religion. Goodness is goodness. Even in a court of law, you go to the court of law, they will tell you, this is good, this is bad, right? There's generic language that cannot be argued. So, number one, they are those who are delighted when they do good. What does that mean? So, if you are one of those that when you did something good, you bought, you bought a glass of water for your mom, without her asking. You didn't wait for her to ask, and you know she's busy in the kitchen, for example, and preparing dinner or lunch for you, and she's exhausted after a long day. So you took it out of the initiative and you said, you know what, let me get her a glass of water. And you knew that this brought happiness to her heart. That is goodness. Right? So, and you will feel, when you feel that feeling of not arrogance, let's distinguish. We don't want to be arrogant just because we did something good, then all of a sudden we're, bigger than thou, right? No. We have to make sure that we keep things into perspective. But if you feel that this made you happy, that means you recognize goodness. You recognize this is good, and this should be, inshallah, an activation energy for you to do more and more. Number two, that you seek Allah's forgiveness when you do bad, right? When you do a bad thing, and we're all full of sins, unfortunately, but when you recognize that, oh, you know what, I messed up. Oh, I raised my voice to my father. I took someone's haqq without their permission. I cheated on in an exam in my school. No one caught me, but I know I plagiarized. And the day passed by, no one caught it. But I know between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I messed up. I intentionally broke my fast in the month of Ramadan. No one knew, but I didn't really have a valid reason for that. The day passed, no one knew, but in reality, Allah's watching, right? If you come to recognize that you have done sin and you find yourself quickly making forgiveness, and of course forgiveness is there's a special way of doing forgiveness. It's not just astaghfirullah and you call it a day. There's requirements what to find, but that's for another day, right? But if you find that you're always thinking, oh, what did I do wrong? What did I do? Did I do this? Or I quickly prayed my salat al-fajr. Quickly, I didn't even pay attention to what I'm saying. And we're definitely all guilty of that, right? So then do you do istighfar and maybe try to do an extra 2 rakat, ihtiyat, because maybe your fajr didn't get, so always that mindset to always think to yourself, okay, not just to pass life and okay, this event passed and then you're not thinking about it. Always to revisit your actions. If you see that you continuously asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, that means you are trying, that means you're good. Number 3, you offer gratitude when you receive Allah's favors. And we touched upon this a little bit earlier about gratitude, importance of thankfulness. There's a lot that goes on in our daily life. Sometimes, we call our friends and we say, hey, what's up? How's your day? Oh, nothing, just nothing happened today. Well, you know what? Sometimes, like the saying goes, no news is good news. If no tragedy happened in your day, there's no, your house, did it get caught on fire this morning? No. Did you end up going to the hospital? No. Did anyone die in your family or your friends? No. Did you get into a car accident? No. You're very lucky. You're very, very lucky. What did you do now to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? One of the things that even for myself, I'm trying to remind myself, because we got so busy, all of us are so busy. We're working in the profession, we're raising our kids. sometimes we don't have time to even thank. I'm very guilty of that. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I need to try to make it a habit at least every day, 2 rakat, shukr, before I sleep. At least on the day of judgment, I can at least say, Ya Allah, I definitely didn't do you any justice, but I tried and I prayed 2 rakat, shukr. And that's going to take what, like a minute? So let's try to think and brainstorm, how can we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Holy Quran that if you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will give you more and more. So, but though you shouldn't be your intent should be thanking Him because He deserves a thanks, right? But Allah's so generous. That's the creator that we have. He's so generous that even when you thank Him for what He has done you, guess what? You're going to see the blessings of that. And then we're going to have to thank Him again, and we're happy to thank Him again. We want to spend every moment thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, that is another sign of goodness. When you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for anything and everything, that is a blessing. On that note, for those of you who are subscribed to my YouTube channel that is called Truths Revealed, we just started a series basically dissecting the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Asma Allah al-Husna, where I thought it would be a good idea, myself and Brother Walid, we were doing this project together, that we would just take 2-3 minutes of your time. I hope it doesn't take a lot of your time. You click on that video and talks about that name. For example, Al-Malik, the king. What does the king mean? A few verses of the Holy Quran to just reflect. It's a beautiful thing. It will make you get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it will strengthen the sense of tawheed in us, because the more we understand who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, the more we appreciate his asma, his attributes, definitely the more we're going to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Definitely we're going to increase our love, and it just takes just a few minutes. So if you would like to subscribe to the Truths Revealed, TRUTHS Revealed channel, you can then get the notifications for those series. And then number 4, goodness are those who are patient when they are tried. Tried meaning when they are tested. So, of course, patience, and we take the example of Imam Reza and all of the Imams. Imam Reza, who was estranged from from Medina, from his home. He was born in Medina, as was mentioned earlier, and he was basically taken very far to Khurasan. How hard was that for the Imam to be away from the land of his father and grandfather, right? How did he deal with this situation? Sabr, patience. Was this not a moment of trial for the Imam? Absolutely it was. It was very difficult. Yet, he did the best of the situation. So one thing that we need to try to get ourselves into the mental practice, and it's definitely not easy, I can say that for sure, but inshallah with us helping each other, is that, we need to be ready for trials. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test the mu'min. If 40 days pass and you didn't get tested, Imam says, check yourself out. That means something's wrong. That you're not getting that tawfiq to get tested. You get tested, so you elevate yourself in station for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You pass that test, you deal with it with sabr, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you. And that patience is goodness. And we see, of course, say that Zainab alayhi salam, al-Masa'ib, the one who endured the most hardest of trials, and her best example of patience, that was the manifestation of goodness at its best. Like Imam Reza said, goodness is patience, those who are patient when they are tried. So inshallah we can try to follow in that footsteps. And then last but not least, and those who pardon others when they are angry. So, when we will find many situations in our life that we for lack of a better term, we get pissed, we get upset, right? People are gonna, ruffle our feathers, right? How do we deal with that? Do we just yell at them and say, stop? I see that happen a lot with siblings, right? Leave me alone. Let's try to be a little bit more patient and at the same time, more understanding, let it slide. Pick your battles, right? There's a saying, is pick your battles. You don't have to make a big deal. Sometimes, like, there's a hadith, make excuses for 79 excuses for your brother. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to really promote ourselves to give the benefit of the doubt and just to hold your cool. Sometimes it's not easy. I totally get it. It's not. That's why Allah is saying this is what goodness is. We need to try to strive to that. We need to try to strive to be good. And then this basically concludes this part of this portion of goodness. And then the last thing that I want to mention, the merits of the ziyarah. The ziyarah of Imam Reza is something that is a huge blessing. If you have been invited for ziyarah, know that it was not random. Nothing is random in Allah's books. That means Allah looked at you and said, I give you permission to go and visit this Imam. That means the Imam himself has given you that permission. That means you are getting that blessing that other people, maybe they don't have the resources, maybe they don't have the time, maybe they don't have money or help. And if you get that opportunity, definitely you better be thankful. And you better take advantage of every moment that you are there to pray for those that are suffering. Don't just pray for yourself. Of course you're gonna pray for yourself. It's mustahab. But first start out by praying for those who are suffering. Those in Gaza who are suffering day in and out. Those mustadafin in Lebanon, in Pakistan, in Yemen. All of those mujahideen, those who are fighting at the forefront of the resistance, right? Let's not forget them in our du'as. And then also, let's realize and remember that there's also some perks that come with the ziyarah of Imam Reza alayhi salam. Two perks is going to be that when we depart this dunya, we're going to be 6 feet deep, right? That's going to be a very difficult hour when we are in our graves and we're going to be asked about our faith. It's during that time we're going to need the presence of our Imam. Imam Reza alayhi salam, those who visit Imam Reza alayhi salam will be rewarded by the visitation of Imam Reza in their grave. Imagine when you're stuck in this very difficult time and you find Imam Reza pop at the moment of your need to be there for you. And another of the karamat, and I'll end with this, is that everyone knows about the sirat, right? The sirat, everyone will be these are one of the signs of Judgment Day. Each one of us will have to walk a thin line like a tightrope. Under us is hellfire. You have to make it from one end to the other. And this is not, a temporary, one of those stunt competitions that we see on TV. That if you fall, then you break. This is real deal. And it's only with your love of your Imam and the wilayah and your deeds that you're going to pass this sirat, this very thin line, safely, while you're feeling the heat of the fire under you. Imagine at that moment, when you were in this very delicate situation, you find your Imam come to you and say, you know what, Hassan, you visited me on that day. I'm coming to you now to grab you, and you fly off. And you might think, but wait a minute, that moment when you're walking on that, that sirat, and you have that hellfire under you, and that heat that's emanating on you is very, very difficult. It's not a light moment. The Imam will tell you, but remember that time when you went to visit me in the heat of June, July, August. It was so hot, but you still came to visit me. Now I'm going to protect you from the heat of hellfire that's right under you. What a generous Imam. What a beautiful Imam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ma'rifah of our Imam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to visit our Imam and to attain his shafa'a بحق محمد وآل محمد. صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.